State of the Union with John King, CNN Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
President Obama leaning back in the chair, reflecting. It almost looks like he's taking a time out there to rest in his office. What is this? Tell us about this picture. And is there any time, as you tell us about this picture, is there any time when he says, Pete, not now, don't take that?
This was taken during an economic meeting, and I think he was just listening to the advice being given and was reflecting upon it.
Just reflecting upon it. This is a pensive president? How would you describe that?
I think he has a range of emotions like we all do.
And here's an Oval Office shot of the president in shirt sleeves, hands on hips. Looks like he's getting to business there. Rahm Emanuel across the table. These are two very interesting guys. You get to see them every day. I know you're not here to reveal any state secrets, but how does the president, what's the interaction of these two?
Well, I think they interact together a lot during the day. And matter of fact, at the end of the day, he has one last meeting with his chief of staff.
And when you have access to these moments, what are the ground rules on Pete Souza?
The ground rules are I try to photograph everything that, every meeting that the president does. I mean, I'm smart enough to know that if he's having a one-on-one meeting with a head of state, I let them have some privacy. So it's sort of like I'm still trying to get used to, how to move and when to stay and
how to be almost invisible.
Yeah.
And there's another shot here of Rahm on the phone, and the president's obviously waiting for the result of a phone call, having a little meditation in there. At a moment like that, you're in this room, so the chief of staff's making an important phone call. The president's in the chair relaxing. How does Pete Souza decide, what am I going to put in the lens here?
Well, this was right when they were trying to finish up the stimulus package, and I think Rahm was talking to I can't remember if it was the Speaker of the House or. So it was just a moment at the end of the day. I make a few pictures and then I let them have their conversation.
And here is a fascinating shot here. This is, I believe, Air Force One. And you're literally peeking through the door. You get a shot through the door. I assume you're leaving them alone. You said you leave people alone at some points, and you decide to get this image. Tell us about that. A lot of people want to know about this relationship.
They meet on a regular basis, and I think there's mutual respect for each other. That was on Air Force One on the way to France.
This is the president walking out, I assume, for one of his primetime news conferences. I've been in the White House, and they introduced him from that holding room, and out he comes to go down the hall.
Right. That's at his first primetime news conference.
And what's it like right before that door opened, and he walks out that door? How is he getting himself ready? That's a big moment. He's going to give an opening statement. He's going to field questions. The world is watching.
He likes to walk around the Blue Room and look at the paintings. There's a painting of Thomas Jefferson that, for both news conferences, I think he's gone and looked at just before he's walked out.
As you know, the American people and people around the world, those are pictures of the president at work. The president is a very athletic and a very energetic guy, and he has a new partner. I want to show this picture because I find this to be a fascinating picture. The president running down the hall with his new jogging partner there, Bo. What is it like now to add this to the diversity of your work at the White House?
This was way back about a month ago when they had a secret visit with the dog to introduce the dog to the girls. And the president just started running down the hallway in the East Wing with the dog. And as I was shooting this photograph, I remember there's a famous picture of Bobby Kennedy running along the beach with his dog, and that's sort of what came to mind as I was shooting that photo.
And there are some photos, I don't have them in front of me because you've just shared them with us. They've never been seen before. So I'm going to ask our people to put them up on the screen one at a time and ask you to walk through them with us. One I know is the president. I'll let them go first. Here it is here on this monitor over here. The president looking out a window. You see the Washington Monument there in silhouette. Hands in his pockets, obviously reflecting on something, and you're giving him some space, but also capturing the moment. What does this tell us?
This is in the green room of the White House just before an event in the East Room, and he actually got there a little bit early. And, I think he was waiting to go out and just started looking out the window towards not only the Washington Monument, but beyond the Jefferson Memorial.
There's a picture you shared it with us, and we showed Valerie Jarrett earlier in the day of the President and the First Lady dancing in the East Room. Very expressive there, a big happy smile on the President's face. There's an energy in the White House. You see Secretary Vilsack. This is the governor's ball at the White House there. Tell us about following the couple and the energy.
Well, this was the first kind of big formal event at the White House, and Earth, Wind, and Fire was the band, and I think the president was singing along to the music. And I think, their intention is to bring some fun to the White House, too.
And you are the official photographer now for President Obama. You were in the same role at the end of the Reagan administration. A very different president from a philosophical and ideological standpoint, but like Obama in some ways, a tall guy, a little bit lanky, liked to do athletic things. I want to show our viewers the two pictures here side by side of President Reagan at the Resolute desk. There's President Obama at the Resolute desk. They used the same desk. This was John Kennedy's desk. One of the style differences here, Pete, is that Ronald Reagan would never sit at the desk without the jacket on. President Obama here in a more casual moment. But what are they? Just give me you've watched history with both of these men. How are they alike? How are they different?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think President Reagan was very formal. I think they're both comfortable with themselves, which makes them, great photographic subjects. The presence of the camera and behind-the-scenes situations didn't seem to bother either president, which, is good for me.
We wanted to end this conversation by asking you, what's your favorite? And you picked this photo. I want to put it up on the screen for people to see. It is what we would call the presidential headbutt, I guess. And you see this looks like a freight elevator, if I have it right. And you see staff off to the left in the picture there. And the president is smiling playfully. The first lady is smiling playfully. She has, I guess it's chilly on that elevator. She has borrowed his jacket. Tell us, A, about the moment, and B, why it's your favorite.
I have lots of favorite photographs. Your staff asked me to pick one, which is impossible to do. But I chose this one because it's a genuine moment. I mean, it was chilly in the elevator. He took his coat off, put it around his wife's shoulders, and then, there's this private moment going on between the two of them, and yet the staff doesn't quite know whether to look or not look. And you see the one Secret Service agent on the right kind of sneaking a peek. And it's just a complete storytelling picture, which is, I think it also is a very genuine moment.
And as you have this unique perspective on history, if you read things you've written in the past between jobs in the White House, you talked about being with Ronald Reagan the day of the Challenger explosion, and at one point alone with him and having some conversation with him. How about this president? Are there times when all of a sudden you look around and you realize, well, Mr. President, it's just me and you, and what are the conversations?
I let him initiate any conversation. I am not there to take up his time in conversation. If he starts to talk to me, I'll obviously respond.
And so let's end the conversation with telling me what it's like. You walk into a room, there's a meeting, there's a lot of activity around the President of the United States. You pull up your camera, you're looking through the lens. In your mind, what is it that Pete Souza has to get?
I look at my job as a visual historian. I mean, I'm trying to document the presidency for history. Certain photographs get released now. We're showing a bunch this week that we want to get out right away. But the most important thing is to create a good visual archive for history. So 50, 100 years from now, people can go back and look at all these pictures.
How much does it matter to you that the guy at the end of the lens is an African American? And they didn't have cameras for some presidents if we went all the way back in time, but there has never been an African American man in the lens of the official White House photographer.
Well, certainly, you feel a sense of history. There's no question about that. But when I look at him as the president. I don't look at him as an African American president. I look at him as the president.
Pete Souza, the official White House photographer, we are grateful for your time and your insight today and sharing these many gifts. They're remarkable pictures. The president, in picking a staff, the president couldn't have done any better than picking a photographer.
Thanks for having me, John.
Pete, thank you very much.